Hello and welcome to Meet the Expert. I'm Daniel and I'm a complex type.
And I'm Craig and I'm statistically significant.
Today is your chance to meet two experts from Scotland's data industry. You'll hear about what they've been working on and ask the questions you want answered to find out more about this interesting area.
Now, data is information, it's things that we know. So things like facts or figures or measurements or things that we've counted. But data science is about collecting, understanding and using that data to make better decisions. And we need more people to understand how to work with data and how we can use that data to help us make those better decisions.
Yes, there's lots of job opportunities in this area in Scotland. According to Skills Development Scotland, there are over 3,000 data scientists employed here. You can use data science skills to work in lots of different areas in healthcare, agriculture, finance, tourism, physics, biology, computer science, the public sector and the creative industries. Having the skills to understand data and to use data to make good decisions will be really important in many jobs across all of these sectors.
And that's why employers are calling out for people who have data skills. And in the future, they'll be looking for even more. So when it comes to a career in data, there are opportunities for everyone.
So today's theme for Meet the Expert is, of course, data science. And we're going to be speaking to Stephanie and Sam about what it takes to work in the area. But before we do that, let's welcome some of you joining us, the schools and groups watching today and sending in your questions.
Yeah, and if you haven't had the time yet to ask a question, you can follow that link that's at the bottom of the screen just now, or scan the QR code. That's how you're going to be able to put your questions to our experts. So make sure you do that now. I know some of you have already sent in your questions, but go for it. Send us in some questions now. Daniel, I want to say hello to some schools that we know are taking part today and some other groups too. So hello to Falkirk High School, Granton Grammar School and Glasgow Clyde College. Thank you for joining us today.
I can see also that Bishop Briggs Academy, schools in East Renfrewshire Council, Moffat Academy and Tobermory High School are also tuning in for this Meet the Expert.
Yeah, we've also got some international viewers today, Daniel. So hello to people joining us from Cayana State University in the Philippines. And Daniel, we've also got a team from IBM in Texas joining today. Thank you very much. What you can do is sending in your, I know some of you are already doing it, but you can send in your questions using the link at the bottom of the screen or scanning in the QR code.
Yeah, we've had quite a lot of questions come in already, but keep them coming throughout the session. That link and QR code are going to be on the screen the whole time. Teachers and adults, you can tweet us and let us know how your class is doing, send in photos at Digital World HQ. But for now, let's get started and bring on our first guest.
Hello, Sam, and welcome to our Meet the Expert session. Thanks for joining us.
Hi there. I'm loving my introduction. I never normally get something quite so glamorous.
Do you feel like you're at, I don't know, the BAFTAs or the Oscars, or you've just been nominated for an awards there with that big introduction?
It's a little bit more special than my average Thursday afternoon, so thank you very much for the invitation to come along.
Welcome. So thanks for joining us today. So let's talk a bit about what you do. So what is your job? What is it you do?
So I'm a data scientist, and what that really means on a day-to-day basis is that I work with different businesses and organisations, and I help them use the information that they collect in a better way than they currently do so that they can improve, whether that's make more money or do things quicker or come up with new solutions. And the sort of information that they collect is things that get collected in digital tools. So that might be on your phone when you're filling in information into a form, or maybe using an app, or something like when you're ordering online and you're doing some shopping. So that company might collect information about you, about what you've bought, but also the things that you might not notice, how long you took to read about a particular item on a page, all that type of stuff. And we bring all that together and we look for patterns and unusual things or common things. And we use all of that to help our businesses grow.
Excellent. So something that we do with all our guests on this Meet the Expert is we put together a little data profile about them. So these are questions that we asked all our guests. So let's fill that in for you now. So what was your favourite piece of technology when you were a teenager?
Okay, It's quite a hard question in some ways, actually, because I didn't have a huge amount of technology when I was a teenager. We maybe didn't have access to as much as there is nowadays. However, and I'm just going to lean over to my bookshelf at this point, because I have something that my mum gave me at Christmas time. And I can't believe I have it still. My mum gave this to me many, many years ago as a Christmas present, but she found it in her attic and she returned it to me. And it's one of the few pieces of technology I had. I'm going to hold it up. Can you actually see that okay?
Yeah.
Personal stereo. So nowadays you might carry around your phone in your pocket and it's got all your music. This has speakers attached at the back. It opens and it has a cassette, and some people might have to Google that to find out what I actually mean by that. And it's got a radio in it as well, and it's the most unpersonal thing because it's a huge monstrosity. So that was maybe a fun bit of technology I had when I was a teenager.
Sam, I think you've got the invitation to the wrong show. This is Meet the Expert. This isn't the repair shop. So we're talking about data today, and data scientists are usually collecting and organizing and sorting through data. But what types of things do you maybe love to sort or collect or organize?
That's very true. That is something that we have to do with our data. I think in real life, I'm not that sort of person. I don't really have any collections of anything. But in my work life, that's really important to me. And one of the things I love to do is I love creating things like checklists, task lists. I love to keep track of everything I'm doing, and that's kind of how my mind works. And it's one reason I do the sort of job that I do. I like to structure and have lists and be able to follow through processes that I work on.
Brilliant. And my last question for your data profile is, what data set would you love to get your hands on if you had the chance?
Oh, that's actually quite an easy one. Transport data. So things like buses. So I live in Edinburgh in the city centre, and we have a wonderful bus service. But bus services and transport in general is a really important area for thinking about how we go greener and how we stop using our cars so much, and we take far more kind of eco-conscious decisions about how we navigate our cities. Public transport data can really help make a difference with that, because we can understand how people move around the city. Do they want to go from the suburbs on the outside and travel into the inside, or do they want to move between the different suburbs? And a lot of the bus routes, unbelievably, even in somewhere like Edinburgh, were planned many, many years ago, and they still follow very, very similar routes. And so we really need to start looking at that data and understanding, what do we do differently now? How can we make it better, and how can we encourage more people to use the bus?
Brilliant. Excellent. So that's us filled in your data profile, but we've got a couple of slides about something. I asked you to bring in something that either you've worked on, you're proud of, or you were involved with, and you've brought that in to show us today. I think, Daniel, you're in control of those slides. Is that right?
So I just wanted to give you a sense of what I do on a day-to-day basis and think about the type of activities I do. So the slides we've just moved through started just with some examples here of different places that we could get some data. Now, these are all to do with things around the weather. So some of them are to do with the actual weather that's happening. Is it sunny? Is it raining? Is it windy? Some of them are to do with the tidal patterns, so the sea and is the tide coming in? Is the tide going out? And the other thing that I've got up here is an organisation called SEPA. And one of the things they're responsible for is the quality of water in Scotland. And what they do is they go out and they sample some water, and then they take it back to their laboratory and they measure. And what they're looking for is bugs in that water. And bugs come from all sorts of places. As an example, if you've got a big field of cows that are right next to a river, one of the things that happens, unfortunately, is the cows poo in the field, and then it rains, and all the bugs from inside that poo are swept into the river, and they eventually make their way back down into the sea. So the project we worked on collected all of that data together, and what we ended up with was something like this. Now, this is not a nice thing to look at. I'm not going to go through all the details. Some of you might have used something like Excel, where you look at tables of data. There's lots of numbers, and it's quite complex and it's hard to understand. So part of my job is bring the data together, end up with something like this. But the final really important stage is make it useful for people. So what we worked on here was about creating what's essentially a forecast, like a weather forecast, but it's for measuring the quality of water. So a lot of people over the past couple of years have got into swimming in the sea. And so this is about being able to give a forecast. So in this particular case, where we see the green happy face, this is around the Leven area, although I'm not sure how accurate my arrow is, but it's pretty close to Leven, the mouth of the River Leven. It's actually telling us that it's got a good water quality score for today. So if I was going to go swimming in the sea, that's a good day to go. But what it's also using is the information we collected is starting to use some really smart data science techniques to predict the likelihood of something happening in the future. And it's telling me that on Saturday, the water quality is predicted to not be very good. It's like saying on Saturday, it's predicted that it's going to rain. It's the same style of thing. And therefore, I might not want to go swimming on the sea on Saturday if the water quality is not very good.
That's brilliant. I think that's, you know, that's my weekend plans maybe changed then as a result of that data coming in. But it's interesting that, you know, the way that you're describing it there, that could be really useful for lots of people. And the fact that something like that doesn't exist yet, and we need people like you with those skills who can understand, well, where can we collect that data? How can we use it to make, you know, a service or an app or a tool that would actually be useful to other people as well? So thank you for sharing that with us as well.
I really do. I've worked in this area for many years and I really love what I do. One of the things that I enjoy is I get to work with all sorts of different clients. So, you know, I've just been talking there about water quality. I didn't know anything about that when I started working with the clients that we had, but we work collaboratively and I'm really into kind of team working. I really enjoy that experience. And we don't all have all the skills that we need to do a project like that. So I like coming together with a team of people and being able to use all of our skills and think about how we're going to solve something. And learning about new areas like that is always really fascinating. And another really key aspect there, our final picture showed us a visualization where we had maps, we had colours, we had smiley faces. I'm quite a creative person. I'm very arty in real life, and working on what we call a data visualization, which is what that picture was, is something that I really enjoy. And as part of that, I have to think about how people interact. What do you think when you see something that's green and red? How does that impact someone? How might somebody who perhaps isn't able to see the screen as well react to an image like that? Can we add extra pictures that will help them be able to see what they need to be seen? And that's what I love. It feels a little bit like, it's almost like detective work at some point. There's lots of things I have to dig in, there's lots of questions I have to ask, and I really enjoy all of that. It's a great environment to work in.
I was going to say, like, as well as being a data scientist, Sam, you're involved in the running of the company as well, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and that means that I'm responsible for a lot of the processes that happen inside the company. So things like making sure our staff are looked after, making sure that we have policies that tell them, you know, how many holidays they get, make sure they take them, make sure that they're okay and they have everything to be able to do their job well. So a really important part of running the business, and very different from not just working on the data, but having to think about everything that makes a business run as well.
Excellent.
I think it definitely is, and I've worked in the tech sector, but so by that I mean, you know, companies that are maybe developing new tools, new games, new apps, that sort of thing. I've worked in that area for a long time. The data science side of things is definitely one of the better paid parts of that job. The reality is when you start out in the early stages, you're not going to be on really high salaries, but you'll still probably be on higher than average. For example, if it's a new graduate that you're coming out and you're looking for a job, it is an area that you will have higher than average salaries. But there are lots of people that are retraining on this. So make sure that you develop all the right skills to make sure you kind of stand out and don't just think about aiming for that salary. Make sure you've got the really important skills that make you really stand out from other people doing it.
That's great. Thank you, Sam. Well, we'll speak to our next guest next. So what we'll do is, if you've got any more questions for Sam, Sam will be back in a couple of minutes, so keep sending them in. But let's move on to welcome our second guest.
Hi Stephanie, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I think we're all good. So you had a bit of a head start. You got to see the data profile questions that we asked Sam. So let's ask you some of those questions as well. But before I ask those, let's just talk a bit about what it is that you do. What's your job? What is it that you do, Stephanie?
Yeah, so I work currently at a place called CodeClan, and that is a place that you can come and learn to code and learn to be a data scientist or a software developer. And my job there is to teach programming, teach coding, write classes, and manage a team of data analysts that work there.
Super. I think CodeClan's such a cool idea where people can go and kind of retrain and learn more sort of tech skills. But let's start with your data profile. So these are questions that we ask all of our guests. And the first question is, what was your favorite piece of technology when you were a teenager?
Oh, see, I don't have props. I'm already like, no, I'm already good. So I was thinking more about this actually because I thought I didn't have any, when we talked earlier on. But I think my Game Boy is probably the one that I carried about the most with me. So I remember I had Pokemon Blue. My sister had Pokemon Red, and that was like a shared resource for us. That's how we bonded. So I think that is probably the favorite thing that I had, when I was growing up. So, yeah.
I remember the Game Boy. I had one as well, and my Game Boy Advance went everywhere with me for a while. So Stephanie, we're talking a bit about how data scientists collect, store, and organize data. A lot of work. Is there anything that you collect, store, or organize, at home?
Yeah, I think I was sort of saying when Sam was talking about this. I do it at work. I don't know if I do it so much at home, but I certainly do things like I'm really into cycling and hiking and the outdoors, and I like to collect, I suppose, all the routes I do, and if I cycle my bike to work and stuff, I do keep records of that. So that's probably the thing that comes to my mind the most. Technology organizes that for me though. I just simply push a button and it collects it. So that's quite good.
And Stephanie, what data set would you love to get your hands on if you could get access to any data you wanted?
So I think this is kind of similar to what Sam was saying, apart from mine's more selfish because I said that I would really like my Google Maps, like Strava, commute data, that I could see all the places that I go on my bike and like where everyone else goes. Because I think that would be good. I'm quite into the idea of, like Sam was saying, like ditching cars and stuff. I try and cycle, and I quite like the idea of seeing like where the most people are cycling. You get that on the apps, but I would like to actually get it, if that makes sense. So yeah, that would be mine.
Yeah, do you know, I would love that as well. Like, because I've seen in like Strava, you have the heat map of where everyone's going, but I'd like to see where I've gone over the last year or 2 years or whatnot. Yeah, that'd be fascinating to see. So we've got a clip of a project that you were part of, and I'm going to play that just now.
Hi, I'm Steph, and I'm a senior data analysis instructor here at CodeClan. In this video, I'm going to tell you what you'll learn if you come on our 2-day Python for Data Analysis course. Now, this course is designed to give you an overview of data analysis in Python. Now, data analysis is an umbrella term that covers a lot of different topics, but in this course, we're going to focus on reading in data and working with it. Our teaching is all done in an interactive way, so we teach with live coding, an instructional code, and you'll code along, and there'll also be teaching assistants there to help you with any of your debugging problems that come up. So it's very hands-on, it's very practical, it's very interactive, and you'll go away with code you've written yourself that you can then take and apply to your own job and your own data analysis projects. The course is aimed at total beginners, so we don't assume any previous coding experience. It's really ideal for people who are interested in data or who've worked with data a little bit but know that they can probably be more efficient if they learn to code. If you want to find out more about these courses, you can go to www.codeclan.com/course.
So that was a bit about CodeClan. And how long have you been involved with CodeClan, Stephanie?
So I started freelancing there in May 2019. I was hired to help write this new course they were doing, which was a data course. so people come and train. And then I went on as an instructor when it launched in the September 2019. And I've been there ever since, actually. Yeah, teaching and writing courses and stuff. It's really good fun. It's a really nice place to work.
I know a few people that,
And now
that
more
went
than
to
ever,
there and,
yeah.
and did those courses actually, and now they're working in this area. Yeah, Craig, I think we've had some questions come through as well.
Yeah, so Stephanie, today's session's about data science, and we're getting quite a few questions coming in here about how people can get started learning to work in that, or they're not sure. There's a couple of people who've basically asked, they're not sure if there would be, if it's the type of job or something that would interest them. But I know a bit about your experience as well, and it wasn't as if you knew from the beginning that you always were going to be working in data science or computer programming. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so when I was in school, I really didn't get on with school that well. I found it quite hard, and I actually left and I went to art school. I was going to go and be an artist, and then I sort of did that for a bit, and then I went away and I decided to go to uni, and I decided to study psychology, not thinking that it would be anything to do with data or data science or anything like that. But then I got there, and it was about how, figuring out how people see the world. So going and asking people and like writing stuff down and like making reports about that, or, collecting data on people. And then that's where I learned to code, because I was having to do it so I can get some, experience. And then I did the theme of my life is didn't really know what to do. So I just kind of went with what I enjoyed at the time. And then I ended up staying at the uni to do a PhD, because someone sort of said, have you ever thought about this before? And I didn't even know what a PhD was. I was like, what is it? So I applied, got funding, and I just kept doing that. And then I realized it was the same idea. Like, if you learn how to make sense of information, you can kind of do whatever you want. You don't need to pick one place that you like. You can apply that to any interest you have. And that's when I thought, okay, this is for me, because I can do whatever I want in the nicest possible way. I think that's kind of how I came to it.
Yeah, you were interested in psychology, and it just happened to be that at that point, to collect the information that you needed to gather about people, you were going to have to collect that data and work with it. And for the amount of data that you were going to have to deal with, really the only way that you could do that was using technology to help you do that as well. And I imagine a lot of the people who come to your course at CodeClan, they're not all necessarily from tech companies. So a question that we've had come in is about, do you need to have, does everyone who works in a data science or data sector need to have that technology background, or what other skills might be needed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming this, so I taught like data at university, and I've taught it at CodeClan, so I've seen like every path come through. No, I really don't think you do, because I don't have a background in technology necessarily, but I think the more important thing about data is that you have an interest in finding out answers to questions, because that is kind of what data science is. You're sort of presented with a lot of stuff, a lot of numbers, a lot of, videos, pictures, maps, and you have to put it all together into like a story that will tell someone something. There's like a difference between data and information is like making sense of stuff that's around you, I think. So for me, if you're curious about things and you're good at problem solving, then you're already like a good candidate to work in data science at a base level. But you can learn tech, like everyone does. I see people, most of the people in the courses I run are not tech at all. There's like, we've had ballet dancers, personal trainers is a very common one. Everyone, project managers, everything, and they realize that they've seen a spreadsheet or they've seen something at some point and they're quite interested. So yeah, I think, no, you don't need a technology. You need curiosity, is probably the main one, I think.
I think that shows then, like, you maybe want to work in health and fitness, or, another completely different area, the arts sector or the public sector. But all these people will need people who know how to handle and use and understand data as well. So it might be you want to go and work for a company that deals with that sector. But if you go in there with those data skills, that's going to be, a really useful thing to have, and no matter what area of that company you're going into.
Yeah, and you don't even need to stick with companies necessarily. Like, the core of data skills are sort of the same, like taking information and making sense of it. Like I've got a friend, and he worked at ASOS, and then he went to an insurance company, and then he went to an energy company, and then he went back to finance, and you know he can do that because he's like good at what he does, and he likes lots of things. So yeah, if you're interested in fashion, you can go and do that, you know. And if you're interested in making money, you can go into finance. You know, it's all about what you like. So it's a very diverse place to work, I think.
That's great. Thanks, Steph. Well, if you've got a question for Stephanie, then you can send it to us using the link below, or you can scan in the QR code. But Daniel, I think we should get everyone back together and let's take a few questions in a group.
Yeah, let's welcome back Sam, and we'll go through a few more of your questions. Hi Sam, welcome back to the stream. So these next questions are going to be for both of you, and we can have a bit of a discussion around them. But let's start off by talking a bit about how you got your own skills. And there's a question here from George, who's at Moffat Academy. And George asks, what course or courses did you do to get your job? So sort of, was there any formal sort of qualification routes you went by, or did you kind of go by more informal ones? So Sam, I'll start with you. How did you kind of gain your skills?
Okay, so I took a slightly alternative route into it as well. When I was at school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had some areas that I was interested in. I didn't do any studying of anything like computer science or anything like that. So I really wasn't very sure. So when I actually first left school, I didn't go into university or college at that point, but I got a job. And I started working within the pharmaceutical industry. Now, I was very lucky with that job that I actually got to do what was sort of the equivalent of what a graduate apprenticeship is nowadays. So it was one day of studying. And what I did was a degree in life sciences, which is very like biology and chemistry. They were areas I quite liked. Now, it's really like what Steph was saying, that as part of doing that, you're often doing experiments and you're recording information and you're tracking what's happening when you're trying something out. And suddenly I started collecting essentially data. And I really enjoyed that part. And I worked there for a few years and I really enjoyed it. And for me, it was a good way of doing it because I earned some money while I was also studying. So it was a good combination. But at that point, I decided that I wanted to get a degree in computer science. And so I went to Heriot-Watt University. I went full time, so I left my job at that point, and I did 4 years at Heriot-Watt University doing computer science, which was difficult at times. There was some of the topics that I didn't enjoy so much, but there was other topics that I really, really enjoyed. And I think there was one place that I really learned is you're not going to be good at everything in these areas. And that's okay, because there will be the parts that you really enjoy and that you've got real skills in. And I would very much endorse what Steph said there about that curiosity piece. I was always interested when I was developing software. Why are we doing this? How does it help the person that's going to use that tool or that app? Is it going to work for them? And I've kept that with me. I started thinking more and more about what's that app capturing? When I type in that information, where's my data going and how is that being used? And that's when I started wanting to learn more about data skills. And actually after that, I learned most of it while I was working. So I would use online courses, online information, and also my colleagues. Colleagues are always a brilliant place to learn because they have different skills. Use them as a resource as well. So no formal qualifications around the data, but my degree was computer science.
Computer science and curiosity.
Computer science and curiosity, totally.
And Steph,
Steph?
Yeah, I think I sort of left school and I went the uni route. We're very lucky in Scotland that we get free education, so I kind of felt like I should make the most of it. I picked psychology, and then I went on to do a PhD, which is just 4 more years in uni, is the best way I can describe it. And that was in neuroscience, so it was the same idea but different data. And then after I did that, actually, I went into pharmaceuticals. It seems to be quite commonplace for like life science people to go. And I worked at a pharmaceutical company as like a trainee programmer. And that was great. They taught me loads of stuff about how it is to work out in the world. And then I did freelancing for a while, doing a lot of different stuff. And then I was at CodeClan, so yeah, kind of where I've been.
And it shows you that, like, I suppose when you were moving into these areas, there might not have been the same opportunities to study these subjects either as a course on its own or even at school level. But in Scotland, we now have like a school level qualification where you can study data science, and there's hundreds of people across Scotland at school learning these subjects as well, and at college too. So it's, you know, nowadays, I suppose we've got opportunities from the formal side. But I'd also be interested to know, like, what about the informal side? Like, if you wanted to learn a new technique or process now, like, I know when I'm learning stuff for my interest in computing, I'm usually on YouTube or something like that to find a tutorial. Is there any sort of informal resources or tools that you've used that helps you learn those skills? Let's go for Steph first. Oh, let's go for Sam. Sam, go for it. Go for it,
Sorry.
Sam.
Do you know, you might be surprised at what I'm going to say. However, TikTok has got an amazing amount of information about data, and it's not something that people expect when I've said that to them. A really good way is thinking about what can you do for free, because some of the tools that we'll use when we're actually doing our jobs cost money, but actually there's lots of ways to try and do things for free. And something that you might use in another place is something like using an Excel spreadsheet. If you have access to that, then learn some of the techniques that working with data involves in the spreadsheet. And it's very good getting that curiosity going in your brain, starting to think about what am I trying to do? What's the question? And a really important part is find a really interesting data set, something that you're interested in. And it might be about you. I've worked on a project where somebody captured all their data about how long they took a shower for, how many times they boiled the kettle, how many times they used the washing machine during the week. And they started building up a profile to understand how much their carbon footprint was impacting the world. That made a set of data, and they captured it inside Excel. And then from that, they used some of the hints and tips that they found on things like YouTube, TikTok, to learn how to use Excel better, to learn some of the techniques. So I would recommend starting there. Have a look at what's out there on the basic level.
I bet you weren't expecting to come on to Meet the Expert and get sent to TikTok to study. I can't believe we've went from PhDs and that level course to TikTok, but if it's good sources, any particular TikTokers we should be following?
Do you know, I would have to go and look at what their names were. I don't know them off by heart. I know the makeup artists, but not the Excel ones off by heart.
I'm sure there's a woman called like Ms. Excel or something like that who has a lot of good Excel TikToks. I think that's her name. But yes. Steph.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with TikTok. The TikTok thing, someone said to me there was like 12-year-olds on TikTok doing Excel better than me. Like some of my students were like, they can do it better than you, and I was like, yeah, they absolutely can. That's way better. So yeah, YouTube's a big one for me, and blogs. Twitter's really good as well, because a lot of people post like little projects they've been working on. If you follow people that you're interested in, and then they usually have links to like what they're working on like GitHub or something, and you can see. I think I like it because you can see what people are doing. I find it very hard to decide what I like, because I like quite a lot of stuff. So seeing what is out there, sometimes just people that work, is quite nice. But yeah, YouTube, there's lots of tutorials. I do that quite a lot. I need to learn new stuff all the time for the course. So yeah.
Brilliant. Let's have I've got a couple more bits of question for you. So let's talk about advice specifically for people who are maybe looking to get started with data as well. So this is a question for both of you. So let's start with, I'll let you decide who's going to go first this time, but what's one thing that you wish you'd known when you started your career in data?
Oh, that's hard.
Or what advice would you give someone who is maybe looking to follow that career? So one thing that you would give as advice because you wish you'd known it, maybe.
Yeah, I think I waited quite a long time to ask people, like to reach out and like ask people about stuff. You know, I was quite not a shy person, but I think the internet and even like everything being remote now has totally changed it. You know, now I would just go to someone and be like, oh, hey, my name's Steph, I do this, I'm super interested in this, would you have 10 minutes, like, that I can chat to you? Those people are generally very nice when you ask, and if you're interested, especially if you're in school and you're like, what, people want to pay it forward. And I think I didn't do that enough when I was sort of coming up into careers. Like, I think just asking, or like, even if you don't want to message someone, like posting something on Twitter or something, be like, this is cool. It gets you involved. And I think, yeah, I wish I'd done that a bit more, maybe.
So I think I very much agree with that. I think asking for help is a really important thing to do, and it's really hard to do, particularly at the start of career, because you sometimes think that everyone else knows everything else and that they're really smart and they're much better than you, and it's never true. They just know different stuff from you. But that doesn't make them better or smarter or anything. They just know different stuff from you. So reaching out and asking for help is always really, really good. And I think related to that, maybe for me, the thing would be that you don't have to know everything to be good at your job. I mentioned it earlier, I'm very much a team player. I love working with a team of people to come up with a solution. Where you have weaknesses, if you know you're not very good at something, get yourself in a team with somebody good at that. Work together, and you'll come up with a much better solution. So don't feel apprehensive that you don't know everything already, and just accept that there's some parts you might never be good at or might just not like doing. But get yourself into a team and support each other and help each other produce an end product that's really good.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, I think we've got time for maybe one more question at least. The question I want to ask is like, okay, what would be a common myth about working in data or studying in this area or working in this area that you would want to debunk? So now's your chance to debunk any myths about working in this area.
Who's going first? I've got a good one. I hope it doesn't contradict. Do you want me to go first?
Go for it, Steph. Yeah.
Well, this is only because I feel quite passionate about this. This is what I thought. So I think a really common myth is that people that work in data are all very naturally good at maths. Like, we love just sitting looking at numbers. That's not true. I don't even have like standard grade maths or higher maths because I struggled quite a lot, but I can learn it. Like, I know I can learn it and I can use it. I learned that quite late in life. It's great once you get into it, but I think data is actually very creative. It's a very creative field to work in and problem solving, and I think the maths thing is a big blocker for a lot of people because it's scary. But I've worked there for like 10 years and I actually don't really do that much maths like day to day. Like, I can do it when I need it and it's great, and it's great. It's like an excellent tool, but yeah, I'm not sitting writing equations all the time. So.
And I suppose if you are using the maths, like, you're not put on the spot to use it. You've got the time to like look into it or research it or practice it. And you're not going to use every area of maths like all the time. So yeah, it's brilliant. Okay, thanks for dropping that hot take, Steph. What about you, Sam?
I think sometimes people think that if you work in data, you must be very, very geeky, and that it's something that involves you just sitting, writing code and not talking to other people. Now, I am quite geeky and I'm quite proud of that, and I'm really happy about that part. But that doesn't mean that as my job, I want to just sit there and focus on one thing and not interact. One of the things I love is about getting to talk to our clients and understand what they're trying to do, and what their goals are, what success is for them, what's going to make them happy about what they're doing. And I love that part, and I love the combination. So there's very few jobs that involve spending the whole day doing exactly the same task. And I think data is sometimes seen as that you'll be doing the same sort of thing. And I think probably maths is where a lot of people head towards. But actually, it's a really big mixture of things. And I think that's a really brilliant opportunity for people with different sets of skills. The creative part is a massive part. It's part of what I do. I really enjoy that part. And there's opportunities for people who are maybe into design and the more artistic side of things. There's real opportunities for them to work with the people that are perhaps stronger on writing the code and able to do some of that part. That combination again is so powerful. So I think, I guess that's my answer. But yeah.
I think that's really come across well today. The fact that, you know, if you previously thought that data or data science was dealing purely with numbers and code and working on those things, that's not the case at all. It's definitely about you using that data to help people basically solve the problems, help humans make better decisions. It isn't all just about the technology. And I think that, you know, you both come across well today talking about all those other skills that are not necessarily the mathematics, the technical skills, but the other things that you need to do well to succeed in this area. So thank you very much for that. Daniel, did we have any more questions? I think we had maybe one more that I could see at the bottom.
Let's go for one more. We'll just go for a very quick one because we've only got a couple of minutes. We've got one here from Blair, who's at West Lothian College, and Blair has asked, do you need university qualifications in order to get into the industry? So I'm thinking about these that are like beginner or entry level jobs. Is a data science degree like a prerequisite, or what's the kind of expectation that?
So it can be a challenge in some ways to maybe get into a position getting a job if you haven't immediately got the combination of skills that someone's looking for. But they don't necessarily come from having a degree in data science or a technical subject, if not exactly called data science. If I think about, I've recruited literally hundreds of people into this area over the past sort of 20 odd years. And most of them have had a form of degree, but not a technical degree. And a lot of them have taken alternative routes to learn about data. And I think we've both demonstrated today that actually they can be very different types of degrees or areas that you work in, that you learn a lot about data. And I think we're seeing that more and more, that people who have had experience in other areas start to use data. Again, I'm thinking of someone I know that worked in retail for a long time. They worked in shops. They learn a lot about the information required to run a business, like running a shop. That's a really intense job. There's a lot of numbers involved. There's a lot of work. And they realized they really loved that piece. And when they were at school, they had no idea about the types of jobs like data science. They didn't know how to get into that. Didn't know it existed as that sort of job. So I think there's lots of alternative routes, but because there will be people that are getting degrees in that area, if you choose to go that alternative route, make sure that in things like when you're advertising, when you're applying to a job advert, that you highlight the skills that we've talked about and how you got them through another route. So that curiosity, being inquisitive, asking questions, make sure that they stand out in your CV so whoever you're applying to sees that you have the type of skills that you want.
Thank you. Steph, have you got anything to add to that?
No, that was very perfect. I mean, obviously, I come from a place that is for training people that don't have degrees, and our students never seem to get jobs. But like Sam says, it's because we teach them skills that are going to like be applicable for those jobs. So I think it is changing. I think a lot of people in the last couple of years have started dropping the degree requirement that I've seen. They do know it's a bit, a bit exclusive sometimes for a lot of people to get one. So yeah, I think it's totally fine.
Well, thank you very much, Sam and Steph, for joining us today and answering these questions we've come in. It's been brilliant having you on the live stream.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Daniel, what's next?
Yeah, so in March, we're having another one of these Meet the Expert sessions, but this time we're going to be looking at the financial technology sector. So if you've got like an interest in money or in banking, but you're also wanting to stick to technology, well, hopefully you'll be able to join us then. We're coming to you on YouTube today, so I think it's a prerequisite that I should ask you to sort of like and subscribe if you like to be kept up to date on our future live streams and Meet the Expert sessions. But for now, it's bye from Sam and Stephanie.
Bye.
And it's bye from Craig.
Bye.
And it's bye from me too. See you next time.